All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury.
And I am Trey Holiday.
Trey, so I came across a story this morning out of Jacksonville, Florida. This man, Rudolph McKissick Jr., he's 93, and he talks about he's been voting for 70 years. Great story right here. Out of WJAX in Jacksonville, Florida.
Rudolph McKissick Sr. isn't new to voting. Matter of fact, he's been voting for the past 7 decades. McKissick cast his first ballot when he was 22 years old back in 1949. Now, at 93 years older, he says voting is a top priority. Why is voting significant?
Because this was one of the things that we could not do. And what a joy it was to begin having that privilege to vote. And when all of us as a people would have that mentality of voting because we could vote, it did make a difference.
McKissick cast his first ballot 71 years ago. In 1949, not all African Americans in the United States were granted the right to vote. He says when he first voted, it wasn't significant. He did it because his father didn't have the right to.
I see the great possibilities that we have now, and we are more equipped now to help one another than we've ever been in our lifetime. Because we have more, we know more, we are more. We're great people. And if we made it through, if our foreparents made it through the slavery, and through the dying segregation, we can make it through this. But remember, the one thing they did, they worked together for one another and not against one another. It would be a travesty, like, if they didn't keep in mind when I'm 18, I can vote, and my vote, you've got to see it singularly, my vote will make the difference in our future.
William McKissick Sr. right there, caught that on WJAX out of Jacksonville, Florida this morning. Can't emphasize how important it is. If you have not voted yet, get that vote out. I mean, you have to get that vote and get it in the box. Like I said, we're at 90% right now. We're closing in on 90% right now. We need to hit that objective here in King County. We need, if you haven't got out there and voted, get to the box, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a long history behind this vote and the suppression of this vote, a very long history.
I just love that they did this story and that we put it in the show. Because honestly, you're so right. We're hearing so much out there. I get it. A lot of folks are like, I'm not voting. I'm not voting. I've heard it in the community a bunch. And I've talked to these people. I understand, right? I do. And for me, it's been that this is the system we have right now. Let's utilize our voice with what we have right now. And I know, historically speaking, and we've lifted it up here, that, it goes along both sides. It's not just that the Democrats have always been the saviors. Nobody has been the savior for the Black community. We understand these dynamics, but let's utilize the right that we have. And let's think about what all of those people fought for, like McKissick just said, right there. I'm telling you, I was inspired once again.
Let's be clear. Ain't nobody coming to save our Black asses.
That's right.
100%. Ain't nobody coming to save our Black asses. And anybody, it's not okay. And I don't understand. Anybody's talking about they ain't voting. You know what I'm saying, man? Definitely. When you talk about people always say, if you say this, say that, I'm deleting you. I got all kinds of different people from different ideologies on my social media. And it's cool. But let me see somebody come across say that, man, I just ain't voting, delete. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't understand the importance of this all the way from there's the presidential, but from the local things. You had Council Member Zahalai on here, and whether you agree with the positions that he's put forward or not, These are local issues. There's a local issue. I think it's number 90, sex education in schools. That's a very, very local issue. Proposition 1, transportation. That's it's a tax, but that's the tax. It's already there, but to keep the tax there, that's the Orca card. Give kids Orca cards on the buses. That's a very local issue. So it's just real ignorant for anybody to be like, man, I'm not going to vote for whatever. Don't you care about things that are happening actually in your neighborhood? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think people need some more motivation. Hold tight.
Slavery is not abolished until the black man has the ballot. Those words were spoken by Frederick Douglass back in 1865 at the end of the Civil War. And now here we are in 2020, heading towards another presidential election, arguably one of the most pivotal in generations. And as we've already seen in the primary season, the right of the black man and woman to vote is still not a guarantee.
Are we fired up?
Activist Latasha Brown has dedicated her career to the notion that all black voters matter.
We're on the ground doing the work, really excited about getting people out to vote.
Voters in the Atlanta area endured hours of lines.
But just last week in the Georgia primary elections, Brown was appalled by what she saw.
We're going to waiting times of 3 to 6 hours.
African-American voters enduring endless lines and overwhelmed poll workers.
That is unacceptable, y'all. There's been a distinction between how black voters have been treated in this country.
In many ways, our contemporary moment has been the perfect storm in demonstrating some of the historic problems that have plagued black voting rights during the history of our nation.
This year marks the 150th anniversary of the ratification of the 15th Amendment, which states the right to vote shall not be denied on account of race.
The 15th Amendment is greeted with enthusiasm across the United States by African Americans because they recognize how important this moment is.
That joy was short-lived. Jim Crow laws were passed in the South to keep blacks from the ballot box.
You'll have the poll tax. There'll be the literacy test. There was always the threat of violence and intimidation at the polls. These efforts to prevent African Americans from voting were ultimately very successful.
But then in the 1960s, a defiant generation fought back peacefully, marching for their voting rights, only to be met with billy clubs and tear gas.
This country was worth living for, fighting for, and dying for.
For civil rights icon Andrew Young, the violence endured on the historic Selma to Montgomery marches was worth it for their big prize, passage of the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965. Is that something you had on your mind in Selma?
We were willing to die because we knew this country needed a Voting Rights Act to empower each and every citizen so that the will of the people could become the reality of our nation.
But new generations of black voters say those hard-earned rights have been eroded by efforts to suppress their vote. Everything from voter ID laws, the purging of voter rolls, and the rejection of absentee ballots.
There's a constant attack on the civil rights of black voters in this country.
That constant attack, felt on so many fronts, has pushed 2020 to an unprecedented tipping point. Voting, choosing leaders, becoming the highest priority for change.
I'll be honest with you. We've earned this right. Earned this right. Earned this right. And people think that it's in voter intimidation right now. Go ask Big Mama and them when they was going and voting. You know what I'm saying? All these years, 100 years of the right to vote, but voter intimidation and everything else there. Like you said, literacy test, poll tax, grandfather clause. There's not been a time when the vote has not been suppressed in this country for black people. It's just the technology has changed. And you know what, man? You got to have courage. Don't be weak now. You know what I'm saying? Our parents wasn't weak. Our grandparents wasn't weak. Don't you be the weak link now when you got it so easy and everything else. Don't you be the weak link. Get your ass up and vote. If you haven't voted today, get your ass up and vote. And if you don't have no other reason to get up and vote, vote for the people in your family that couldn't vote. Vote for the ones that got suppressed. Vote for the ones that got beat down. Vote for the freedom riders that was killed down to registering people to vote. You don't have no good excuse not to get your ass up and vote.
Oh my God, And I love it that you have the No Excuses t-shirt on today. You're absolutely right. There's no excuse when we look at the historical context of what so many people in this country have felt as voter suppression, have felt as rights. I mean, literally fighting for what should be your rights that are given to you because you're a human being in this country. I am telling you right now that I'm so fired up because I think that what we're seeing is unprecedented numbers. Those in the past who have felt like it was not for them to vote, I think we're seeing them come out. We're seeing so many young people come out. So you're right. That is a very small voice, and we want to squash that voice because ultimately let's use whatever method we have right now and let's think about how our people fought for it. Absolutely. Oh, no excuses.
Well, we played with blood. 100%. We played with blood. You know, I mean, man, it's incomprehensible to me. If for no other reason, you honor your ancestors that came before you and put up with this bullshit, this nonstop voter suppression, nonstop trickery. Look down there in Houston, they want to throw out 127,000 votes because today they used the court. 100 years ago, they used the shotgun.
That's right.
It's the same game. You know what I'm saying? Stand fearless.
That's right. That's right. And that's what they did. And ultimately, that's what we need people to do. I love how she said, it doesn't matter. If you got to wait in line for hours, bring a snack, bring a water bottle, be prepared, be ready, because people have always been ready. And it's people. This is the growing voice of the people that even allowed this act to even take shape and root in this country. It wasn't, and that's why I'm glad that they explained that. It wasn't the eradication of it. It wasn't the amendment. It was literally that they had to continue to fight. They had to continue to protest. They had to continue to ensure that their voice would be heard. I love that because that spirit is alive and well today. We will continue to ensure that our voices are heard. For all of you who are thinking that you should not be voting, I'm telling you, I'm with O on this one. Get your butt up and vote.
And if you in Martin Luther King County right here, where we got one of the most easiest voting systems in America, you better vote for them brothers that's sitting out there in 7-8 hour lines in all these other places across America where they're trying to beat them down. They're trying to beat them down. They're trying to wear them out, but they're standing firm. Man, I mean, I promise you, look, tonight, 7 o'clock, 7 to 10 is a local, man, it's election coverage. Julia Jesse, Marcus Henderson, Mike Davis, Enrique Cerna, Kevin Schofield, we all gonna be there. And I'm gonna tell you, Trey, I'm already standing over here, and I'll tell you this, I'm gonna keep standing and I'm gonna die on my feet on this. You know what I'm saying? I swear to God, I won't kneel, I won't budge, I won't take no knee, I won't consent to anything. This is the most sacred thing you can do. Get out there and vote.
Absolutely. Get out there and vote. What he said is true. I think that this is the time to utilize your voice to make this country what you believe it can be, what you know it can be. That's how we utilize that vote and actually utilize our voice. Thank you, O, for all of your passion on this matter. It's definitely warranted, my friend.
All good, man. We gone.